Stop right there, you violated the law. Your crime? Buying replica New Rocks. Your sentence? Eternal devotion to our Lord and Saviour's sleep token. You're now listening to Spotify's #1 metal playlist. Okay, if you're new here, hello there. In my last video, I explored how capitalism has completely butchered and murdered alternative. And to recap and summarize, alt is completely divorced from subculture and is now happily married to the mainstream. It's a hashtag, it's a trending look. What we call alternative today isn't about punk, isn't about goth, isn't about emo. It's a branding strategy. A vibe-based identity sold back to us by the very corporations we once thought we were resisting. Your alt clothes? Made in the exact same factories as the old money look. Capitalism doesn't differentiate, it just merely changes the color scheme. As the New Yorker put all the way back in 1994, alternative, a breathtakingly meaningless word, a substitute establishment sold to you on the same shelves as the original. The New Yorker even went on to say that the whole alt boom in the 90s was just MTV diversifying its product, like a soft drink company releasing a new flavor. In short, alternative, the mainstream idea of it, is not countercultural in the slightest. It's cherry coke with a choker on. And this brings me to today's mission. I am forming a new task force, a countercultural division. Our objective? To take down the poser police. Yes, that's right, a poser police force for the poser police force. It's like poserception here. But you know exactly who I'm talking about, right? The ones in TikTok comment section, calling strangers they don't know posers because they're wearing dupes, or simply not buying from the brands they perceive as alternative, even though it's all greenwashed shit. Our alt TikTok, a place where you can be shamed and hated and called a poser for liking one major record label band, but in the same breath, they will be like, this is real music, this is what the real scene looks like, this is real alt music, and they'll just show you another major record label, arena selling band. These poser police people on TikTok aren't resistance, they're not counterculture, they're not doing anything different. They are simply just insecure foot soldiers for the system with TikTok superiority complexes. Also, feel I should introduce myself. Hello, I'm Cal. On the channel, we cover these types of topics, so if that sounds interesting to you, please feel free to subscribe. PR bit out the way, and now to address the real thing. Cal, police top? We don't trust them around here, buddy. Hey pal, I needed a costume for the bit of being poser police for the poser police, and one of my friends just so happens to throw a peculiar amount of dress-up costume parties, so I raided their wardrobe. I'm aware this is like a sailing hat, I couldn't find a police hat. Also, this is really warm and itchy, so let's get on with the video. Right, time for our first sting operation, the Dupe Patrol. Because it turns out when I stumbled upon replica New Rocks being shamed and shunned on TikTok, this was simply just the tip of the overpriced PVC-coated iceberg. But for comedy's sake, here is a visual representation of the CEO of New Rock and the CEO of replica New Rocks partying together as you buy into their vicious cycle of buying new generation New Rocks that just don't last long anymore and they're breaking according to people on Reddit, and then you buy the fake ones because you're like, it's just not worth the price, and then you get shamed for them because they're not real New Rocks, they're not the real deal. So then you buy the new gen New Rocks again, and the cycle repeats forever and ever and ever. I'm getting lit tonight. R.I.P. the consumer's bank balance. Do you not see what is going on here, my friend? They are both agents of capitalism. One comes with an internalized superiority complex, and the other comes with shame and torment. Shaming the random kid for wearing replica fake New Rocks, whatever you want to call them, simply just makes you a foot soldier for capitalism. You are enforcing a system that has always lowered its quality whilst raising its prices, and then blaming the customer for adapting or being priced out. But yes, welcome to the alt-fashioned ecosystem online, where buying some absolute awful $125 alternative mesh punk rocker real alternative top, which most likely is made in the exact same factories as the Shein crap, makes you valid, but the other, if you upload a TikTok in your Shein alternative top, you are excommunicated, you are witch hunted, you are shunned. It quite literally all is just a morally bankrupt cesspit where the ethos is buy. Show your outfits to prove your validation and authenticity to alt. This absolute meaningless word of clothing hauls and micro trends. The online alt landscape has rewritten DIY to mean don't inquire, just buy. That's right, buy from the horrific alternative greenwash brand that has never once mentioned its supply chain. But don't worry team, they must be good because they were designed in LA. And they plant trees, and their packaging is recyclable. They are quite literally everything the poser police on TikTok want from an alternative brand. Surface level activism with like zero reform. Truly top tier shithousery. Well done. Because let's be real, half these alternative brands that are popping up like weeds in the ground are most likely run by some person who figured out how to run a Shopify web store and add some spikes to some god-awful drop-shipped clothing. And I feel I need to get more specific here, because a lot of the brands celebrated in the alt universe have like zero transparency or show nothing about their supply and production chain, what they're paying the people that are making their garments. And I'm bored of all of these brands being treated like saints whilst you shame other people for buying inferior alt brands. Hell Bunny, try finding their supply chain info. You've literally got better chance locating the Loch Ness Monster. Trip NYC, designed in America, made in definitely not Brooklyn. There's a reason they've moved production overseas. It is quite literally to crank out more crap at lower prices for them, keeping their costs down while they can charge you more. But yet they're real alt because of what they once were like 20 or 30 years ago. This is not a mystery, this is capitalism. Disturbia is literally the meme I talk about. We plant trees, we try to avoid using single-use plastics. Bro, I literally just asked you who made your top and how much you pay them. Disturbia is literally the perfect example of a brand trying to be the good guy. Because at face value, this looks incredible, right? Talking about the planet, talking about being animal friendly, talking about product traceability, having a link to the Modern Slavery Act. All looks incredible, but these are buzzwords brands use. If your production methods are so good and so ethical, why don't you showcase your suppliers on your website like Lucy and Yak? Why don't you tell us how much the factory workers are being paid? Because this just looks like one big, we're trying, but what are you actually doing? If the brand is so good, if it's so ethical, how is it that you're capable to produce so many different clothing options, so many different accessory options? Why is it that if you go online and look at the brand, so many people are complaining about the quality? Look, capitalism's steel toe-capped boot pressed firmly to my skull. Do I think Disturbia might genuinely be doing a bit more than some of the other brands I've mentioned? Yeah, probably. But here's the thing, and please remember this, brands are not your friends. There is a very good reason these companies say sustainability and ethics are important to us, rather than confidently stating we are sustainable, we are ethical. One of those statements looks lovely on their About Us page, and the other opens them up to scrutiny, responsibility, and accountability. And if there's one thing capitalism hates, it's accountability. Take cotton, for example. Recently, I've seen more and more brands making a big deal about their t-shirts being 100% cotton, after previously being made with polyester. Not necessarily because they deeply care about the planet, but because consumers, us, we're getting savvier. We're starting to push back against plastic-based fabrics. But capitalism always finds a way to keep cutting costs. The cotton industry still to this day has huge ethical supply chain issues. Adidas and H&M were recently caught up in this exact scandal. And these are brands that heavily promote their ethical and responsible values. It feels like brands saying sustainability is important to them has just become another buzzword like alternative. Something brands can sell to the consumer so they can feel like they're doing something different. And look, to be totally fair to Disturbia, I genuinely want them to be as good and as ethical as they say they are striving towards. But it is worth noting they recently took investment from a private equity firm called Refined Capital. Now, obviously receiving investment isn't automatically some villain arc, but Refined Capital specifically highlights their expertise in scaling consumer brands and accelerating growth. They also prominently feature their responsible ownership strategy, talking about sustainability and social responsibility, exactly the kind of buzzwords we've discussed. Their whole thing is literally about maximizing value and expansion, but doing it with a nice, shiny, ethical veneer. Private equity typically cares about profits and scale, so let's not kid ourselves into thinking these brands are operating some kind of punk rock resistance out of the goodness of their hearts. Disturbia literally did £18.1 million in sales. It's business. Big business. And I do just want to stress something really clearly here. Manufacturing in countries like China is not inherently the issue. Chinese factories aren't synonymous with exploitation. Many provide decent jobs and fair wages. The problem isn't the location, it's the willingness of big brands to prioritize cost cutting above workers' rights. Why do they produce overseas? Because they can often get away with paying less and scaling faster. Not because production in China or Turkey or Vietnam is inherently bad. The blame is squarely on the companies choosing profit over people, not the country where the production happens. I am not saying don't buy from these brands. What I'm just trying to make clear to you is that they are all the same. They are all playing the same game. None of this is outside the mainstream. None of it is doing it differently. It is all just alternative themed fast fashion. So, to pit one above others and shame people for not being able to afford certain goods makes you an asshat. You are quite literally an ass on your head asshat. You make no sense, you're a teapot, and this is what you think alternative is about. Just one giant posturing shithousery competition, and then one day you'll actually go to an alternative show and you'll be like, they were quite rough and tumble in the pit. Yeah, no shit, fuckface. Alt has been martyred so that you could get next day delivery and 300 different mesh tops on your For You page. And look, I'm not even mad at some of these clothes. Younger me would have worn lots of this stuff, right? But the just sheer performance of ethical alt consumption is just wild. People gatekeeping Shein dupes whilst proudly linking to the exact same mass-produced stuff, but it has triple the price tag and a spooky font, so it's worth triple the internalized superiority points. Here are some hilarious but also sad things I've seen people having disconnects and moments of realizations about on the alt TikTok sphere. Thinking Etsy equals ethical. Surprise, it's just drop shipping in grayscale. Assuming designed in London equals ethical. You do realize if I sit at my computer and I design something on Photoshop, I can say designed in London. The garment tag will say otherwise, and so will the 14-year-old that stitched it. Also, like another one I just silently watch and just laugh at is people just shaming someone for buying cheap alternative clothes, and then I'll click on their profile just out of curiosity to see what sort of clothes they're showing off, and it will be one of those god-awful alternative tracksuit brands, and they literally don't realize that their hoodie is made of like 40% plastic and I don't know, like 60% moral high ground. At this point, alt just is an absolute capitalistic free-for-all. I may as well just create a shitty brand called, I don't know, Bleed Boy, and the post will be like, here at Bleed Boy, we do it different. We believe in sustainability, that buzzword you love, but we also believe in terror. Yeah, because, you know, that's alt, that's different, that's spooky. Ooh, our clothes are 100% recycled trauma. Oh my gosh! And guess what? It's all made in a warehouse we refuse to acknowledge. Use code POSER10 at checkout for 10% off your first purchase. But this is what capitalism wants. It pits us all against each other in this fashion contest. Whose alt uniform is the most real? Instead of asking, okay, so who profits from it all? Quite literally on TikTok today, I saw people being like, we love to support small businesses. And then this one small business was found that some of the things in the jewelry that they were making, one of the pieces was from a big warehouse company, right? It was a mass-produced thing. And then I saw like a hate takedown TikTok on that small company. An individual just trying to make some jewelry. But in the same breath, people will champion and love when Build-A-Bear released the emo axolotl. That's just so fun and quirky. It's all backed by capitalism. It's all a cosplay for capitalism. However, one was an individual trying to make something for people, and the other is a stuffed axolotl with a sweepy fringe. One is championed and the other is shamed and hated on. This individual becomes the target for people's hatred about capitalism, but you never have that same energy for the clothes you wear when you buy them from big corporations. How do you expect small random business owners who are just doing something as a fun passion project to make everything perfectly and everything ethically whilst it's reasonably priced, because nobody wants to pay much for anything anymore? Whilst, the big businesses also, none of them do anything ethically, but you'd rather bombard and harass some small business online because, that makes you feel good that you can attack this one individual and you can say, they're capitalism, they're bad. But ooh, is that my favorite band tee in my favorite high street shop? Let me get that. I hate it all. And for the record, if like some mass-produced coffin backpack or some top that says like half good, half bad makes you happy and you want to buy it, honestly go for it. Wear it. In this lifetime, we are raised into of an age where we can work, and then we're sweated like a cog for 60 years, and just like a cog, once we wear down and we can no longer work as productive as we once could, we are replaced by a new shiny cog. And if your response to that is no cow, that's not ethical. If you truly care about ethics, if you truly care and want to make a change in this world, your issue should not be with the 19-year-old that has limited resources and limited capital who buys the Shein dupe. It should be with the system that has made the Shein dupe necessary. If we lived in a perfect society where all resources were allocated and shared out equally, person to person, we all had joint ownership in the enterprises and the production they made. Fine, that's good. We would all have equal access to things. Then we would all be holding hands wearing the most ethically sourced clothes. Everything would be good, right? But old fashion is not immune to capitalism. It is capitalism. It's so easy to just attack someone on TikTok for their purchasing choices. But changing the system means focusing up, not sideways. And these conversations around posers and inauthenticity in the alternative universe transcends just aesthetics. We've got people going head to head online, calling each other out, fighting over which massive record label arena selling band best represents their alternative scene. Ah yes, nothing will represent counterculture better than an arena-selling band backed by big corporation, financed and funded by big corp. That really is doing it different and sticking it to the man. And the one band that comes to everybody's mouth and everybody mentions in these conversations about music in this alternative sphere, which isn't alternative at all, is Sleep Token. A band that has like pretty much just become like a punching bag, but also like the altar of worship for alt TikTok. I actually do think Sleep Token are a really interesting case study in how counterculture aesthetics and sounds get mainstreamed and monetized. They're this band surrounded in mystery with, masks and capes, and their concerts are rituals and the people attending are the worshippers. All of this sounds different, right? At face value, like, oh wow, that's pretty fucking metal. That's pretty occult. This sounds like a one-way ticket to Underground Town. But then the music sounds like it was perfectly orchestrated to go viral on TikTok. You've got the rebellious guitar sound, but then also mixed with some like R&B sounding singing. And surprise, surprise, it did. Their song, The Summoning, did go viral on TikTok. And since their like rise to fame, I've seen a lot of people say lots of different things about Sleep Token. The classic one is, it's metal for people that don't really like metal. They kind of act like you're a stray estranged family member or potentially a co-worker would play to try and bond with you because they saw you wearing Docs one time. I've seen other people also point out that they feel Sleep Token can be like a gateway to metal type bands. You know, the lyrics aren't really overly harsh and it's more like melodic, therefore it's going to appeal to like a wider audience. Basically, in other words, it's alt music but more accessible. I guess like a bike with training wheels on. And honestly, it is working. They're selling out arenas, they're racking up awards, and if you saw Sleep Token on their recent tours, or you've just seen like the TikToks and clips of their concerts. Wait, sorry, I mean rituals. You will see like an absolute sea of devotees worshipping their chosen leader as if this is some sort of like secret cult-like thing, except it's not very secret or low-key when you've got huge businesses, I don't know, like Forbes and Billboard singing your praises. But I should be clear, I don't think listening to Sleep Token makes you a poser or anything like that, right? Like, imagine calling someone that's in like a hardcore band, has done a bunch of mutual aid, has turned down major record labels, a poser because they listen to Sleep Token. That kind of logic is just nonsense, right? But this absolute explosion in popularity has come with a lot of backlash for Sleep Token, especially from like these self-appointed gatekeepers of metal. And like there's that funny comment I always see when people are arguing over the topic of Sleep Token, and people will be like, nobody hates metal more than metalheads. But if you peek into metal forums, there's so many people calling Sleep Token out, being like, this isn't metal. And I've seen others point out that the band to them feels like some sort of like contrived novelty of like the anonymous vibe. It's spooky, it's mysterious, and it's tailored for kids that grew up on Marvel movies and TikTok lore. Which, honestly, it does make sense. I instantly now think of like, Minecraft? Do you remember when that was huge with like the Dream SMP and, that masked bunch of individuals? The riffs are heavy enough for Spotify metal playlists and for them to play at alternative festivals, but also the choruses and the lyrics are clean and catchy enough to be played on some sort of mainstream contemporary radio. And this broad appeal is why Sleep Token is surging into the mainstream. And we've seen this before with bands like what Bring Me the Horizon became, right? But this will always make the hardcore metal fans gag because it's the age-old dynamic of mixing pop accessibility with a genre that is considered and deemed extreme. The metal purists will hate them for this, and a bunch of new fans will be like, oh my gosh, this is so new and real, we've never experienced this before. Or maybe since, I don't know, Bring Me the Horizon's last album, but whoa, this is so different. And you've got like your 89-year-old grandma rocking back and forth being like, this shit fucks me up. And you're like 13-year-old cousin who nobody gets and it's not a phase, mum, but it totally is a phase, being like, yeah, I love Vessel. And then you've got the 45-year-old dad being like, I'm just so happy we can all bond and sit together, honestly. This is 3 generations of family all worshipping some chap called Vessel and his battle with some demon called Sleep or whatever, I don't know. And for realsies, I really don't think that like Sleep Token are evil masterminds or anything inherently evil, I think they're a bunch of creative people that are just very good at marketing and understand what people currently want. I suppose the fair and real critique people do have of Sleep Token is, though, it's kind of what they represent bigger picture. How the aesthetics and sounds of counterculture can be repackaged into a product for mass consumption. And Sleep Token didn't invent that playbook. They're just like the latest ones to seize that opportunity. And oh my goodness, dear Lord, when I started looking into Sleep Token and their merchandise, they really are seizing that opportunity. If your favorite cult band, your favorite alternative band, your favorite band doing it different is doing sold out arena tours backed by corporate behemoths and charging premium prices for merch, they might just not be as countercultural as you think. Go back to the point of why it's perfect for the family. The 89-year-old, the 45-year-old, and the 13-year-old all bonding over it together. Yay! They will all enjoy it for their own reasons, whether it be pseudo-rebellion, something funny, or I don't know, something they can actually hear with their ears. And Sleep Token have well and truly ascended to this upper echelon of big mainstream alternative bands, right? Like they have tours backed by AEG Presents, literally one of the largest concert promoters on the planet, on planet Earth. So this is the reality, a band singing about ancient deities and wearing spooky masks, basking in pyrotechnics under a huge corporate banner. It's a vibe, and it's a very profitable one. And when we talk about profits, we just have to talk about Sleep Token's merchandise, because it literally is wild. Like, Sleep Token's merchandise table has basically become like a luxury boutique. We're talking $40 t-shirts, $130 hoodies. And that's not even the scalper prices. That is direct from the band. And I have seen some Sleep Token fans being able to break out of the rituals, being able to break out of Vessel's hold and be like, wait, why are we paying $30 for some socks? You're telling me even my toes need to get amongst the rituals, Vessel? What is this nonsense? But honestly, what takes the cake for me with Sleep Token's merchandising choices is releasing a token. Yes, the Sleep Token token. You can't make this up. This is peak hilariousness, and I'm guarantee the band are laughing at you for buying this crap. Commemorate with these exclusive challenge coins, a stunning tribute to the artistry of Sleep Token and the cities that welcome them. Fuck off. What, like, mid-level management teapot came up with that? Honestly, this is some Shannon Blake level of shithousery. And now these coins are being resold on places like eBay for so much more. Imagine, like, explaining to, like, a crusty punk from, like, the 1980s that this band that played dress up and they're perceived as alternative and doing it different are charging $50 for a coin, and then their fan base are reselling them for, like, quadruple more. Honestly, you've got to laugh and love it. And I generally feel bad for the fans, like, really crashing out and trying to defend Sleep Token over this sort of stuff. I see them try and justify it by, like, well, what about all the other people that are employed to work for Sleep Token? Ah, yes, this is capitalism. This is a corporate beast. This is suits in a marketing meeting making this for you. They only have to make all of this crap because they chose to scale this way. They literally signed up for this. Vessel is literally a vessel for the corporate beast. That's what this is truly all about. And when you're not buying their $50 coins or whatever, you can buy their fake leather jackets, which will run you like $250. Fake leather, real money. Team, from an outsider's view, it's kind of wild. Like, I know the concerts are supposedly rituals and this is worship, but it generally feels like some fans have taken this as open your wallets and pray. Pray by buying all of this stuff. And I should state that none of this is to, like, begrudge the band, right? I understand they're just making a living and they sure are maximizing the living they're making. And I also understand that the fans are just enjoying something they like, right? If you want to buy the merch or the coin or the leather jacket, it doesn't make you bad. You're just buying something you genuinely like. But I feel it's just, like, impossible to ignore in this conversation how counterculture's imagery and style are being sold here at a massive markup. Sleep Token's entire presentation taps into the rich history of, like, the theatrics of metal and goth presentation. The dark cloaks, the mysterious lore, the heavy but melodic sound that gives new people a very safe entry point. This is literally the sort of thing you used to be able to discover in some sort of, like, tiny independent venue. People have been wearing masks and creating stories and lore for decades, but now it's been commercialized and it's got this slick package around it, and now you're paying to see it on some arena tour. Shout out RCA Records for creating this corporate beast and the amazing apparel line they've created for it. Sleep Token is a product sold back to us that takes inspiration from something that was once different. They are a name on a piece of paper in a boardroom, just like Taylor Swift, that has a merchandise line. They both supposedly stand for things and are doing things different, but they are a product to be sold to us. They are designed to be safe enough for arena tours and viral enough to go big on TikTok. Again, doesn't mean the music's bad or they're talentless. Clearly not. Right? But if you're using this band as a moral litmus test for authenticity, then you've already lost the plot. Team Sleep Token even whacked their freaking logo or whatever on a skateboard. They sold you a skateboard. I like a couple of Sleep Token songs, but what do they have to do with skateboarding? Like, this is so silly, but this brings us on to like this wider conversation about alternative, how it is all smoke and mirrors, how it is literally all just big business. What alternative is literally just big business. Let's talk about, I don't know, festivals, alternative festivals. In theory, festivals like Download, Hellfest are seen as like the alternative pillars, right? Where you can go see some real golly music that makes your legal guardians go, heavens, are they possessed by the demon? I'm joking. They're gonna be there with you being like, haha, this is a fun day out. This is smooth. There's no spiky edges to this. This is family fun. And honestly, back in the day, I really brought into all of this. I was like, yeah, when I go to my first heavy metal festival, I'm doing it different. But these festivals are backed by big businesses. Again, on paper, there is nothing different between these festivals and the mainstream festivals. There's nothing different between Sleep Token and Taylor Swift. It is all the same. It is all stuff to be sold to us. And this isn't me being like, you can't go to them. I go to all of these festivals. They're funny and hilarious, and I have a good time with my friends listening to the music I did when I was a kid. Shit slaps, it's a good time, but it's all about as countercultural as the alternative fashion brands. So trying to protect it as something different and something authentic, when it's all controlled and backed and shaped by big business, makes no sense. Posers and non-posers can't be a thing here. It's just a thing for us to enjoy if we want to. Download Festival, which is a big alternative festival in the UK, is literally backed by Live Nation, a multi-billion-dollar business conglomerate, and up until recently it was literally backed by Barclays Bank. Nothing quite screams fight the system like jamming to anti-authority songs on a stage funded by a literal bank. These festivals rely on big sponsors, from energy drinks to shoe brands to alternative fashion brands. It is all cashing in on the image of counterculture, and they've took that word counterculture, which does mean something different, and just called it alternative. The fuck does alternative mean? Because it doesn't mean its literal definition. Hellfest might display pentagrams and skulls and everything dark and mysterious and, occultish, but behind it you will find tourism boards and large alcohol companies, ensuring the whole carnival runs smoothly. Alternative music and alternative fashion has its own industry now, but it is all curated and controlled by the mainstream. Like, even the fashion at these festivals just shows how commodified the alt look is. And again, I do want to stress, I look the exact same as everyone else at these things, but we're all wearing Vans, or we're all wearing Docs, we're all wearing like a red plaid shirt and like jeans or like we all look the same. It's just funny, and if you look around, it's actually funny, it's actually enjoyable, and it's a meme on TikTok for a reason, right? Like, the music's all good fun, and there's moshing, and it's a real sense of community. It's all fun and games, right? But it is truly important to be aware of the line between real counterculture and this commodified version of it, mainly just so you don't go around calling people posers. No one can be a poser in this scene. It is all devoid of anything countercultural. It is just slop and fun, and enjoy it for what it is. You can enjoy all of this crap and still do countercultural things. Be in your local scene, maybe thrift, maybe create your own clothes. Those are countercultural activities, right? Doing something different. Alternative is just slop fun to help us pass time until we die. To put it bluntly. And if you're like, oh, Cal, when did this happen? We've seen this story happen ages ago with punk, right? Punk was a fiery grassroots rebellion, and then by the late 80s, designers and chain stores took it and made it an aesthetic. Something that was famous for this very iconic look is now even present in mainstream. Huge designer brands will try and sell you like a distressed leather jacket with spikes on and things with pre-made patches on. What starts as a raw, grimy, real, authentic subculture now has the imagery associated with it merchandise in every mainstream mall all over the world. And this will be the cycle forever and ever and ever. Counterculture to commodification, from goth to grunge to emo. We will see this forever and ever and ever. Real subculture will always exist, but there is a reason why they've all pushed away from aesthetics. Today's alternative mainstream metal scene, with bands like Sleep Token and Bring Me the Horizon headlining festivals, is arguably that fully commodified stage. The edgy visuals and sounds remain, but they have been repackaged strategically, sanitized just enough to sell, marketed just enough to seem dangerous, but not too dangerous. We will see this time and time again. You know, artists like, I don't know, Youngblood. It's pseudo-rebellion brought to you by a Fortune 500 company. The angry teenager that thinks nobody gets some will listen to Youngblood and his lyrics will be like, and then I tied up my parents, and then I had sexual intercourse with my best friend. They'll be like, yeah, it's just chaos. It's this energy that nobody gets. It's real. It's passion. And parents will be like, okay, I will take you to see Youngblood. I will get you his weird merch. It's all harmless fun. And none of this is crap. I do want to say that none of this is like evil doom. Oh God, 666, run for your life. Like it's not that. It's just, this is the inevitable. This is the mainstream understanding of counterculture. This is their clone of it. And to people who are actually in these spaces, yes, they may always find it corny when they see things like, you know, Youngblood and Sleep Token and Bring Me the Horizon, but it doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. You can enjoy both. You can enjoy real subcultural, countercultural spaces and also big arena selling tours. They are fun and enjoyable for complete different reasons, though they may have like sounds that overlap and sound similar. I could confidently take my family to a Sleep Token arena show and they'd be like, oh wow, the theatrics and the performance was genuinely incredible. But if I took them to maybe like one of the more hardcore shows from my local area, I think they would feel far more shocked and be like, oh, people are quite fighty here. At the arena show, you get elements of the culture, but it all smoothed out. So if after all of this, I have unintentionally induced panic and angst in you, or maybe you now realize that you are at the very surface level of actual alternative culture and you just listen to the big gateway brands that are sold to us by major record labels and their arena tours, and you're like, oh Cal, but how do I find real counterculture? How do I find something of actual depth and not slop that's been sold and packaged to us? Well, first off, there's nothing wrong with the slop being sold and packaged to us. It's there to be enjoyed and consumed, so restraining from it doesn't make you a better or worse person. It's just there. You can enjoy the slop just like everybody else. It's fun slop. I like some of this slop. I like the theatrics. You can tell there's a marketing team behind a lot of this stuff. It genuinely is impressive, right? But if you want something that has been untampered with from the mainstream corporate fingers and their puppet strings, you're not gonna find their band tees in a Hot Topic. You're not gonna find their merch in a mainstream store. You're not gonna find them making TikToks being like, we're the hardest band to come out of Canada. Or there's this one I keep seeing sponsored being like, we're the only something band from Denmark. And it's like, well, you're clearly not. The thing is, if Sleep Token are the polished corporate idea being sold to us, do you know how many hundreds and thousands of bands there will be that are the real, raw, uncorrupted version, bubbling along in the DIY universe, whose voices and sounds don't sound like they've been put through some sort of like AI blender to smooth them out 1,000 times. It's real and it's raw and it's passion. And you'll find these at DIY basement shows or in small grassroots venues. It's in zines, and thanks to modern technology, you can even find it on Discord servers now. The underground clubs, the Bandcamp releases. You'll know you're there when you're in a small room with a bunch of people, all there because they want to support some random act they've never heard of, seen of before, but they just do it because they like the scene. And literally nobody will be trying to con you and sell you a coin, a token, or a $200 hoodie. At gigs, at those actual real small independent shows, buying the merch makes total sense, because you know there's that whole thing of like, don't buy merch from high street stores, don't buy merch from big chain stores, only buy it from the bands when you're seeing them live. No, if your band chose to get a major record label and they chose to sign with that, and they're going hand in hand with big corporations, they have accepted their fate. They have accepted that their merchandise will be splattered everywhere like a poisonous virus. I don't care if you got your Slipknot t-shirt from Primark or one of their concerts. It's all the same. However, buying merch from a merch stand at a small independent show for some like band that has 80 monthly listeners, or maybe like 8,000 monthly listeners, will make a huge difference to them. That could be the difference from them having enough petrol money to continue their DIY tour. Honestly, always buy their merch if you can. Support them if you can, right? I'm a vest boy till I die, but sometimes I will buy the t-shirts and just give it to one of my mates. At this point, literally print and make your own Sleep Token merch. Do not fall into the trap that you need to buy the merch to keep them going. They will keep going. They are funded by huge entities. It is not life or death for them, and it never will be. Vessel does not need a helicopter landing pad at his house. That's not gonna help him fight the demon he's supposedly battling. The bands at your local shows do need your support if you can. There's obviously no pressure, but if you can, that's great, right? So here's how the Poser Police would wrap up on the Poser Police shutdown sting that I've been doing for this video. That's an interesting way to segue, Cal. Anyway, Cal, the next time you see, I don't know, like a $200 distressed hoodie or a $50 coin from a band you love that also gets you and nobody else gets you, and it's not a phase mum and Vessel gets you, we must support Vessel in every way I can by doing a pop shove it on his skateboard. Anyways, but the next time you see all of this stuff, just laugh, just smile, enjoy it for what it is. It's just complete absurdity. Enjoy it for that. And once you do enjoy it for just that, words like poser will mean absolutely nothing to you. If you want to dress in the mainstream alternative brands and listen to the bands that are like backed by big corporate entities and they're like arena selling, and that's all you want to do, fine, awesome. You are the mainstream understanding of alternative. Nobody can ever take that away from you. And if you also do that and you also want to be part of countercultural scenes, that's awesome too. Or maybe you just want to be part of countercultural scenes and you're not interested in the alternative scene, what the mainstream understands it as, that's fine, but it doesn't really achieve anything by calling them posers. You don't get any sort of points. There's not like this imaginary system where you call somebody a poser and you gain your countercultural wings. You either just get amongst it and get involved or you don't. That's the fun of life. And also, like a side note, I kind of forgot to mention when talking about Sleep Token sound and how lots of people don't like it, and I'm aware that may make you feel some way if you really like Sleep Token. You're like, oh, I don't get it. Well, I just liked it. It's fine to like a corny, crappy band or whatever, okay? When my friends years and years and years ago, when I was a wee little lad, showed me Cradle of Filth, I burst into laughter. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. It sounds like if me and my friends got blackout drunk and decided to do like a theatre production. It's so over the top. I can imagine us all in like leotards and tights dancing around being like, I'm waiting in my cold cell when the bell begins to chime, reflecting on my past life and it doesn't have much time, cause at 5 o'clock they take me to the gallows pole. It's hilarious. It's so much fun. If I die before going to see Cradle of Filth live, I'm gonna be so disappointed. If you ever see me in public smiling to myself whilst I'm walking around with headphones on, I'm probably listening to Cradle of Filth. It's so enjoyable, it's so silly, and I enjoy it for what it is. Silly fun. Silly, goofy fun. And that's what Sleep Token can be to you. Or it can be like, the real deal, it's not a phase count. Hey man, I don't make the rules, I'm just commenting on all of this alternative nonsense, and you can't be a poser in the alternative world. None of it's real. It's silly, goofy fun is how I describe it. Anyways, we're going off track here, so let's wrap this one up. I've been really enjoying the last couple of videos where you've been telling me your DIY fits or things you thrifted or your favorite pieces of clothing in your possession. I'm trying to think of what we could do this time round. Maybe, I don't know, a band that you really love from the mainstream, or like an artist you really love from the mainstream, and then also a more underground band or artist you really enjoy. For example, I think the first album I ever brought as a kid was Mika's album, was it My Life in Cartoon Motion? And a lesser known band I really enjoy is Split Knuckle. There's my contribution to this conversation. Please comment yours down below. Anyway, I'm Cal. I hope you've enjoyed this video and thank you for watching if you got this far. There'll be another video here next to Skog, and we shall all see you next time. Okay, bye. You can go now, unless you're commenting a mainstream band you listen to and a non-mainstream one, but you should go now if you're not doing that. Seriously, go. Why are you staying around? This is not like the extra clip in a movie bonus scene. You're not going to get anything different. You're not going to learn anything new about me at this point. Oh, golly, I can't wait to get this shirt off. It is a sensory nightmare. Okay, bye.